All right, following Thursday's sports wagering action, we're now 7-0 in our last 7 board member tier package bets on BrockPage.com. And the link for today's board member tier package bet is in the description section below. Guys, $1,000 bettors are now up over $6,300 during that span. Now, the board member tier is an all-inclusive package that I offer on my website. And not only do you get access to my board member tier package bet itself, you also get access to every single bet that I give out on my webpage all the way through the end of February. Now, if you're not signed up on that website, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to explain a little bit more about it in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to the video. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal bets on BrockPage.com, and I have packages on that website starting at just $1.99. Now, the purpose of these YouTube videos is to provide you with free informational sports betting content, and it's also designed to generate interest in signing up for a membership on my website. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my webpage. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport side in total, or most of the games at least. And what I do on my website is, well, I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some college basketball action. A lot of really good games here on Saturday. And we're going to go ahead and start with Purdue taking on Michigan State. 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Saturday, February 26, 2022. Purdue's -2 on the road with the total at 149.5. Now, the Boilermakers have only lost 2 games since January 3rd. And they're amongst the best scoring teams in the country. Purdue's averaging over 82 points a game, and they're in the top 3 in shooting from the field. Jaden Ivey, he's averaging over 17 points a game, along with 4 boards and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Zach Edey, he's scoring 14.5 points a game himself, along with 7 rebounds. And when it comes to shooting the 3-ball in this one, Purdue's making nearly 41% of their 3-pointers as a team. They're squaring off against a Michigan State squad who's on a 3-game losing streak themselves. And they also failed to cover the point spread in 6 out of their last 7. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two schools, the Spartans lost 7 out of their last 10. They lost 7 out of their last 10 games against Purdue, and they averaged only 65 points per contest during that stretch. Meanwhile, defensively on the other end of the court, more recently, Sparty's given up 80 points a game in their last 4 losses, throwing out that Penn State game. Now, total-wise, Sparty's gone 8-5 to the over in their last 13 at the Breslin Center. Meanwhile, Purdue on the other side, they've gone 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Purdue -2 in the over 149.5. Next matchup, little Big 12 action, talking about Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. That's going to be a 12 o'clock Eastern start time. The Oklahoma Sooners are -3 with a total at 131.5. And despite their recent struggles, the Sooners have been really tough defensively at home this year. They're allowing only 61 points a game at the Noble Center, and they're limiting their competition to just 29% shooting from 3-land there. Now, scoring-wise, Tanner Groves is averaging over a dozen points a game, along with 5 rebounds. Meanwhile, Umoja Gibson is scoring nearly a dozen points a game himself, along with a couple of rebounds. And speaking of offensive production, the Sooners are actually making nearly 50% of their field goals in front of their home crowd. Now, they're taking on an Oklahoma State team who lost 7 of 9 as the road team this year. They averaged only 64 points a game during that span. Now, the Cowboys also shot just 28% from 3-land in those road games. When it comes to the total in this one, Oklahoma State saw unders recently with the likes of Baylor, Kansas, and this very Oklahoma team. Meanwhile, the Sooners saw unders recently with Texas Tech and Baylor recently themselves. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma -3 in the under 131.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Kentucky versus Arkansas. And that's going to be a 2 o'clock Eastern start time. Kentucky's -3 with a total at 148.5. But despite being favored by a bucket on the road here, the Kentucky Wildcats are a little bit banged up right now. Wheeler and Washington are questionable. Frederick's out. Wildcats are also covering the point spread in just 33% of their road games. They've actually had a tough time making their three-pointers when traveling this year. They're taking on an Arkansas team who's been nearly impossible to beat at home this season. The Razorbacks are 15-1 straight up at the Bud Walton Arena, and they're actually scoring nearly 80 points per contest in those home games. Jalen Williams, he's averaging just about double-digit points. Jalen Williams, he's averaging just about double-digit rebounds a game. Now, the reason why that's important, he's going to have his hands full with Oscar Tshiebwe Saturday afternoon. So I don't think he's going to out-rebound him, but he needs to play the game of his life, and if he does, it's certainly going to be a key to victory. Meanwhile, J.D. Notae, he's leading the team in scoring with over 18.5 points a game for Arkansas, along with 4 boards and 3 assists. And even though Kentucky's been very good, grabbing rebounds, Arkansas is actually in the top 25 in the country in offensive boards per game themselves. So if they can play the game of their lives underneath the basket, they should be able to beat this team. Now, total-wise, Arkansas saw overs recently with the likes of Florida, Auburn, and Georgia. Meanwhile, Kentucky, on the other side, they saw 5 out of their last 9 get over the line themselves, throwing out that LSU game. I'm going to lean toward Arkansas +3 in the over 148.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Texas versus West Virginia, 2 p.m. Eastern start time. The Texas Longhorns are -3 with the total at 129. But despite being favored on the road in this one, the Longhorns, they've been pretty bad away from home this season. They got the W in just 33% of their road games, and they averaged only 66 points a game in those road contests. They're taking on a West Virginia team who's still very tough to beat in Morgantown, despite their overall record. Mountaineers are 11-4 straight up at the Coliseum, and they're allowing only 62 points a game there. Now, offensively, on the other end of the court, Taz Sherman, he's scoring 18.5 points per contest, along with 3 rebounds and 2.5 assists. Meanwhile, Sugar Sean McNeil, he's averaging nearly 13 points a game himself, along with a couple of boards. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two programs, the Mountaineers have held Texas to just 68 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings. Now, total-wise, West Virginia is 60% to the under in their own arena. Meanwhile, Texas saw unders recently against Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Tennessee. I'm going to lean toward West Virginia +3 and the under 129. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for Part 1. It is going to be North Carolina versus NC State. That's going to be a 2 o'clock Eastern start time. UNC's -3.5 with the number at 154. Now, the Tar Heels got the W in 8 out of their last 10 ball games. And they're also 6-3 straight up in their last 9 on the road. Armando Bacot, he's scoring nearly 16 points per contest, along with a dozen rebounds. Meanwhile, Caleb Love, he's draining 40% of his shots from downtown. He's also scoring 15 points a game. Now, UNC is currently in the top 25 in the nation in road offensive boards. They're also averaging 78 points a game in their travels. They're taking on an NC State team who has a losing record at home this year. And they also went a pitiful 3-13 against the spread in their home games. Awful. Now, the Wolfpack's biggest issue has been their defensive play. These guys are allowing 74 points a game at the PNC Arena. And they're also one of the worst teams in the country in home defensive field goal percentage. Now, total-wise, 8 out of these teams' last 10 head-to-head meetings got over the line. Matter of fact, NC State allowed 91 points a game in those very head-to-head meetings with the Tar Heels. Meanwhile, UNC went 70% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward UNC minus 3.5 in the over 154. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Be on the lookout for our part 2 video in the next couple of hours or so. But before we go ahead and close out here, guys, just got to quickly remind you that if you were interested in getting a package on my website, just keep in mind, you are going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on Brockpage.com, you're going to get access to those picks all the way through the end of February. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. So we are red hot right now. Probably a good idea to sign up today. But if you want to get your max value, you're going to want to sign up on the 1st of March. But regardless, guys, that is going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Brockpage.com. I just said that. But most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Friday or Saturday to you, depending on when you're watching this. Best of luck to you. I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at Brockpage.com.